Hey, I'm Rebecca Turner and welcome to Take 5. Today I'll be sharing some thoughts on how fear and negative assumptions can fuel your worry and anxiety. If you think about it, both worry and anxiety have at their root fear. They're both based in some kind of a fear of something that you don't want to have happen. Many of us tend to focus on the worst case scenario of things, and we don't worry about the good possibilities that could happen. For example, people don't say, gosh, I'm so worried that I might get that new car. We don't worry about that. But we might worry about how we're going to pay the payments on that new car. So if you think about things that you're specifically worried about right now, try to identify the fear that's at the root of that. Fear is always at the root of worry. Let's talk about negative assumptions for a second. When we ponder things in our mind that may or may not happen in the future, we tend to assume the negative. We kind of just default to worst case, the what ifs. So let's say, for example, you're going to change careers, and most of us go into a new career quite naturally doubting our abilities just a little bit. We think things like, what if I can't do it? Or what if they find out I'm not qualified? So that negative assumption that you can't do it or that it's just not going to work out, that can keep you paralyzed and keep you from moving forward in life in general. But what if you flipped that assumption? Because you get to choose what assumption you make in any situation. What if, instead of obsessing about the what if of failure, you instead parked on the other assumption that you just might be awesome at this new thing? Is it possible that you could fail at it? Well, of course it is. It's always possible. But it's also possible that you could be really good at this thing and be successful. So ask yourself, what's most likely to happen? If you've been hired for a new job, either you're very qualified and you passed the interview process based on merit, or you faked your way into that position. But either way, you got some skills. Most likely, though, you're qualified to do this job. So why not choose to think about the exciting possibilities that it can provide? New skills you can learn, exciting projects to take on, new people who might become good friends. There's all sorts of positive possibilities on the flip side of the negative worst case possibility. So you get to choose how you think about the things that haven't happened yet. If you have a tendency to assume the worst in most situations, you're creating unnecessary anxiety and stress for yourself. But the good news is you can change that. And to work through that, to change that mindset, try these 5 things. So the first is to identify what the fear is, what you're afraid of. So identify the fear. Secondly, ask yourself what you would do if that worst case happened. So you make a plan. Identify the fear, make a plan for what happens if it does come to be. Third, ask yourself, what's the best thing that could happen in this case? And think about that for a little bit. The fourth thing is to ask yourself what's most likely to happen. There's a worst case, there's a best case. And think about which is the most likely to happen based on what you know. So don't let fear drive that answer. Let the facts drive the answer of what's most likely to happen. And then fifth, after you've thought through all the possibilities and identified what is the most likely to happen, and you have a plan, then drop it. Let the worry go. Practice those visualizing techniques that I spoke about in the last Take 5 for helping the unwanted thoughts to pass away, not to pass away, but to just leave your brain. So again, those 5 things: identify the fear, make a plan, ask yourself what's the best thing that could happen. Then ask yourself what's the most likely thing to happen. And at the end, let those other worries go. Visualize them leaving. So you can see how fear and negative assumptions that might not be realistic can fuel your anxiety if you park on them. Fears are normal. We all doubt our abilities now and then, especially when trying something new. But the good news is that you can train yourself to handle those things much more productively if you'll do some self-reflection and try to logically process through those thoughts and fears. Bad stuff can always happen, but really it doesn't usually happen. We tend to worry about things that never come to be, that never occur. But how amazing would it be to not spend so much mental energy worrying about stuff that doesn't happen? That's your Take 5 today, and thank you so much for listening.